Okay, Assalamu alaikum everyone. My name is Dr. Batul Zehra, and today in association with Masters of Medical Knowledge MMK Hub Academy, we are going to study the topic of cholinergic drugs. So let's begin. Okay, so first of all, I would like to recall you guys that in the last class we have studied about the sympathetic and parasympathetic system. So as you have remembered from there, that parasympathetic system is the part of nervous system that is activated during rest and digest. That means the time when we are completely in a relaxed state, and the neurotransmitter which is released by the neurons of parasympathetic system is acetylcholine. Hence, these neurons are called as cholinergic neurons. So that means the drugs which mimic the action of parasympathetic nervous system can be called as cholinomimetics or cholinergic drugs. I hope you all are understanding that. So next, in the next slide, you can see that the cholinergic drugs are also two types, just like the adrenergic drugs, which means direct acting and indirect acting. Direct acting cholinergic drugs are directly working on the cholinergic receptors present on the postsynaptic membrane. And these cholinergic receptors are again of two types, as you can see in this slide, muscarinic and nicotinic. So first of all, we're going to discuss about the nicotinic. Nicotinic is called as nicotinic receptors because the point where acetylcholine is fixing on these receptors is the same point where nicotine can also bind. And let me remind you guys that these receptors are pentameric ion channels. However, if you talk about the muscarinic receptors, so they are called as muscarinic because the point where acetylcholine binds is the same point where muscarine also binds. And these are 7-pass receptors. And now again, you can see that they are divided into choline esters and alkaloids. So choline esters are basically the synthetic derivatives of choline, which are highly resistant. So they can't be destroyed by the acetylcholine esterase enzyme. Whereas alkaloids are the natural plant compounds. So you can remember it that choline esters are the synthetic ones and alkaloids are natural plant derivatives. Now we talk about the indirect acting drugs. So now drugs which are not acting on any receptor but rather on the nerve terminals or in synapse to increase the level of acetylcholine so that the larger amounts of acetylcholine can indirectly act on their respective receptors. That's why they're called as indirect acting cholinergics. Why we are calling them indirect? Because they are just increasing the amount of acetylcholine, but not acting on the receptors. And over here, you can see that we have classified them into 3 different types according to their duration of action. So the longest action drug is organophosphates, intermediate to long acting are carbamates, and the shortest acting one are the adrophonium. We're going to discuss them further in the next slides. Now you can see in this slide that the cholinergics can be classified as cholinergic agonists, which are basically the direct acting drugs because they are working on the cholinergic receptors directly. And over here we have anticholine esterase, which are also known as acetylcholine esterase inhibitors. And these are basically the indirect acting drugs which I was talking about because they are destroying the acetylcholine esterase enzyme. And you know when in the synapse acetylcholine esterase enzyme will be destroyed, so there will be increased amount of acetylcholine. And this acetylcholine will then going to work on their respective receptors doing the cholinergic, facilitating the cholinergic system. Hence, they are called as anticholinesterases. So first of all, we're going to discuss about the cholinergic agonist. They are again two types, as I've talked before: choline esters and alkaloids. So choline esters are the one which are synthetic derivatives, and they are acetylcholine, metacholine, carbachol, and betanicol. Among all of them, if you remember, Acetylcholine is the only one which will be destroyed by acetylcholine esterase enzyme, and the rest, methacholine, carbachol, bethanol, will be resistant. Hence, they have longer action. And then we have alkaloids, the plant derivatives. They are muscarine, pilocarpine, and eriocolin. Now, if you want to remember these drugs, so you can remember it. Let me annotate again. Okay, so acetylcholine esters have choline, see, choline in their end, or col in their end, right? So carbachol, bethanol, or acetylcholine, methacholine. This is how you can remember the choline esters. And when you have to remember what are the type of alkaloids, they have ene in their end. So in choline esters, we have either col or choline, right? And when, let me choose a different color. When we talk about alkaloids, so they have ene in there, and like muscarine, pilocarpine, and eriocolin. Over here, do not confuse choline. It has C-O-L-I-N-E, right? And what I talk about choline ester, it will have to have a CH. It only have CO, that means it is in alkaloid, not in choline esters. So this is how you can remember, right? Now, over here, you can see the type. Again, we can distinguish the choline, anticholine esterase into two types, reversible and irreversible. Now, reversible means the drugs which will bind the acetylcholine esterase enzyme temporarily, right? So it can easily detach again, and the parasympathetic action will discontinue, because there are times when sympathetic system needs to be activated. So we do not want these drugs at that time. But irreversible drugs are those drugs which bind with the acetylcholine esterase enzyme permanently. And because of this, it creates a toxic action, because now the parasympathetic action will having an outflow, and it is working continuously, because there are times when we need our sympathetic system as well, but now only parasympathetic system is working, and it is working in more than required amount. Hence, the irreversible drugs are basically having a toxic action, and that's why we are using them as insecticides or nerve gases. And the reversible drugs are the drugs which basically have the therapeutic action, which are more important in pharmacologically. So over here, you can see we have two types again. The carbamide derivatives are physostigmine, neostigmine, pyridostigmine, edrophonium, rivastigmine, donepezil, and galantamine. Donepezil and galantamine can also be used in Alzheimer's disease. And over here, we have epridine derivative saccharine. It is also used as a drug of choice in Alzheimer's disease. But when we talk about the irreversible ones, over here you can see the carbamide derivatives. Here we have carbaryl, which comes with the market name of Sevin, and propoxur, which comes with the market name of Pegon. And we know that these are the commonly used insecticides. Now over here, you can see the type of organophosphates, and we all are very well aware about the organophosphate poisoning. So you can easily remember that these are the poisons: typhlos, epothyrophate, malathion, dianisone, taban, sarin, and suman. Over here, these three, the last ones, taban, sarin, and suman, are used as the nerve gases for chemical warfare, and the malathion, diazinon, these are used as the insecticides. So that's all about cholinomimetics. Thank you so much, guys. And if you have any question regarding today's lecture, so you can text me in the lecture box. Thank you so much.